Hello and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards and synthesizers. And continuing with my Depeche Mode album review series, this is Violator Part 11. Welcome to the most in-depth Depeche Mode album review series ever conducted by an independent YouTuber. My God, what am I doing with this? This is part 11 and we're only halfway now because today it's all about Enjoy the Silence. Now, if you've not seen parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 yet, do click on the link in the description below and you can catch up with those videos before you come back to this one. And while you're down there, there's another link that you can click if you want to watch the whole Depeche Mode album review series, if you want to just binge watch it. Wow, so let's jump into today's episode, which is Enjoy the Silence. Enjoy the silence. Enjoy the Silence. Arguably Depeche Mode's most successful single to date. And I think the reason why this is their biggest selling single and the most, one of their most popular songs to date is probably due to the fact that this is probably one of the most commercial songs they've sort of done in recent years. We know Depeche Mode is, it always stuck its head above, into the commercial sound, sometimes more so in the 80s and stuff. But of late, it's a very sort of sought after type of sound, and which people in the mainstream don't tend to really get. But Enjoy the Silence did sort of break through into the mainstream because of the production choices, and we're going to talk about all of that in this video. Enjoy the Silence charted everywhere, and it charted particularly well in Germany, America, and it actually got into the UK top 10. And this was a tremendous achievement for Depeche Mode. And I read recently, I wasn't aware of this, that in 1991, this song won them a Brit Award for, I think, best British single of the year or something like that. And when I read that, and I thought to myself, my God, I mean, have you seen the Brit Awards these days? We'll just moving swiftly on. It's worth me mentioning that if you're watching this video here on YouTube, please understand that this is a short, condensed version of the full video. The full video will be available exclusively on my Patreon channel. You can join my Patreon community for as little as $2 a month, and you can see extended, in-depth versions of the videos on this channel, as well as be a part of something special with a lot of in-depth and behind-the-scenes stuff and some real meat and all the goodies there in Patreon. I mentioned how this song did sort of break through into the mainstream, and this song is a typical textbook example of the brilliance of, let's say, a band at the height of their, in their prime, at the height of their career. But a lot of the credit, and of course taking nothing away from Martin, because he did write the song, a lot of that credit can also be given to Flood and Alan Wilder, who, as we know the story, and we're not going to go on about this because we know this well, Martin was out, I believe, and Alan and Flood were in the studio, and they were just experimenting, and it was Alan Wilder's idea to turn this into a an up-tempo track, so it has the 4 to the floor beat, boof, 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 which it's kind of like a typical kind of disco groove. The song is, it's in a key of C minor, and it has a BPM of 113. So, it's not particularly fast, but, when you listen to Violator as a body of work, tempo-wise, this is quite fast, because Depeche Mode's tempos generally are quite down-tempo and slow. But listening to the demo of Enjoy the Silence, and click on the link in the description below and you will hear the demo there. I'm sure you've all heard it, but it's interesting hearing that demo because it was very minimalist. It was just a harmonium type sound with Martin's angelic voice. Words like violence break the silence, come crashing in. And the way Martin sings on that demo did make it sound very sort of country and western in a way. Remember that Martin Gore has always had a soft spot for country and western music. So it does have a real sort of country and western vibe. And I can understand why Martin was probably really pissed off when he came back to the studio and Flood and Alan turned around to him and said, this is how we're going to present the song. Because if you just listen to that demo and you just listen to the finished product that we know, you can just see how far it's come. I remember reading once Alan said something along the lines of that Martin is not particularly precious. You know, he's as long as the song is presented in a way that, you know, he feels honors the song, he's happy with it. But I think in this case, he was just a bit like, no, man, this is just not what I had in mind, because, you know, just you only need to listen to the demo. And it's interesting because, you know, I don't want to fly the Alan Wilder flag too high now, but if Alan wasn't in the band, EnjoyThe Silence would have definitely gone down. I think since Alan has left, I think Martin has had to really step up and be the more sort of dominant one in the studio. So had Alan not been around, EnjoyThe Silence would have sounded a lot different. It would have still been a great song, but I don't think it would have been a hit, because let's face it, this was a hit. You know, and you know, we don't talk about hits when we talk about music we love, but this did sort of like become a hit and cross over into the mainstream and everything. And once again, the idea to, you know, turn it into an up-tempo disco track. But the rest is history, and it worked brilliantly. We all know the song. We all love it. Right, so we're now going to run through the song in a lot of detail. I want to break it down on the piano and show you the chords and just talk about some of the insights I have about it whilst we're doing that. Now, I don't, unfortunately, have the actual Emacs presets for this, but what I do have are the multi-track stems. And we're going to go over to my other system and we're going to listen to those. But before we do that, let's quickly have a sort of ballpark look at the song and the chords. Right, sketching this out with shell chords, it starts on a C minor, and it's words like violence break the silence, come crashing into my little world, painful to me, pierce right through me, can't you understand, oh my little girl, all I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary, they can only do harm. So whereas the chords are very beautiful and simple, at the same time they have quite a sophistication to them. You know, it's not a typical kind of chord progression, you know, we've often heard, and of course that is Martin's songwriting, and a lot of it I think stems from his not being musically trained. Therefore we get all these things like the phrase I've coined, the Gorism, where certain notes just seem to clash but it just sounds beautiful. We know when they were in the studio, Dave Vaughn talks about how once they had sort of come up, once Martin was kind of warming to the kind of disco idea, although he was not completely convinced, he did go in and pick up his guitar and he played the guitar riff. Apparently the song just flowed and it all went really, really quickly. And they did get very excited because they thought, you know, it just felt a lot easier than a lot of songs they'd done before. You know, is simplicity best or simply the easiest? The song is beautifully simple but classy and sophisticated, and it's not pretentious or anything like that. It has a darkness, but it's more of a melancholy than a darkness. But it still has that moodiness to it, which I love in their music. Let's have a look at the iconic part that Martin plays. And notice on the left hand, it's just going from the C to the D sharp. An interesting observation, and believe me, there are many. If we take the guitar part, comparing that to this main melodic part, which we get later in the song. You can see it's a similar melody. Once again, the guitar part is. And then that main sort of melodic riff later on is. And then what's interesting is with that sort of main melodic riff at the end, I mean, it could be played on the same sort of bass chords as what the guitar part is. In other words, it could have been played like this. But of course, it's played here over these chords. Beautiful. And also in the beginning, you've got that. So those are the fundamental chords. It's basically just from for the verse. Painful to me, pierced right through me, can't you understand? Oh, my little girl. And the choruses. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary, they can only do harm. Then, of course, on the way out, it continues with these chords. And then you've got this. And of course, at the same time, you've got that beautiful choir part, which is choir sounds. It's choir sounds, but it's also layered with Martin's voice. Martin's going, and of course, that is sampled and combined with those choir sounds to give it that real layered, choral, gorgeous effect. The melody on that choir part is something like this. And then you've got the do 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 and everything, and what can we say? An epic, epic song. Right, so let's go and have a look at the multi-track parts and some of the vocals and take this a little bit deeper. Right, and here we are at my other system, and now I've just loaded all the multi-track parts of EnjoyThe Silence into this program. This program is called Logic, and it's a music production software for those of you who are not producers. And you can see what I've got here is I've got all the parts here, and I've colored them accordingly, so according to my brain. All the pink parts there are the vocals, and over here in brown we've got the drums. The synths are in purple, the guitars are in orange, and and so please understand, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are only going to analyze the vocal parts here. For the full in-depth analysis of this whole track, please sign up to my Patreon community. And one of the reasons for that as well is if we play full tracks here on YouTube, we can run into copyright issues, and I don't want to do that. So let's just for context, let me just quickly play a bass drum and a hi-hat. You recognize that? I'm going to try and get away with bringing in a bass line. You get the picture. Now, this is very, very interesting. We know this song so well, but just hearing these parts sort of in their naked form is wonderful. So let's start off here. This is Dave. The actual part was called vocal bounce stem, and that's obviously a bounce in music production. When we talk about bounce, it was an old term used for rendering something to tape. But anyway, this is Dave Vaughn's vocal in solo.
Words like violence break the silence. Come crashing into my little world. Painful to me, pierce right through me. Can't you understand? Oh, my little girl. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary. They can only do harm.
Very honest, very, this is in the days before, ultra processed auto-tune crap. But you can hear this part here.
My arms.
There's like a... Now, if you're a producer, you'll know what that sound... That's a comp. That's obviously where they've probably taken... this vocal part is probably made up of several different takes. And you can actually hear the break here where they cut... The actual cut here where they patch that in.
My arms.
It's like a breath. It goes... It kind of like a double breath there. If you're a producer, you'll know exactly what I mean. But this is just fascinating to hear. Let's quickly jump on to... We know in the chorus we get Martin going, here in my arms. Well, let's listen to Martin's part in isolation here. Well, first of all, this is the part we know Martin sings.
Here in my arms. They can only do harm.
And listen to the listen to the light vibrato on his voice. It's just a young, agile voice. This was Martin at the top of his game. Okay, so this is what we sort of consciously hear. Well, consciously hear. This is what we know from the record.
Wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary. They can only do harm.
Okay, so those are the voices we hear on the record, but I want to play you stuff that is recorded underneath it that you probably didn't know were there. And that is... So Martin's doing the here in my arms, but he's also singing a softer version below that going here in my arms. So he's singing that softer part an octave lower than his high voice in the same register as Dave, and it sounds as follows.
Here in my arms.
Beautifully intimate.
They can only do harm.
They can only do harm. Just in soft conversational style. Now, here's something else. Ladies, keep your knickers on. It's Alan Wilder. Now, I did not know Alan Wilder's voice was on this record. I don't think you did either. But check this out. Here is Alan Wilder in solo.
Here in my arms.
That's Alan Wilder.
They can only do harm.
Now, I did not know this because listening to the record, you only hear Dave and Martin's voice. But of course, Alan's voice is in there as well. They can only do harm. Also at the lower register. And it just a lot of the way you produce a record, it's creating texture. So even if you've got two voices singing at the same register, each voice has its own color and nuance, which will add a different, and just gives it that color and complexity. And so, hey man, leave your comments below. You probably never knew Alan's voice was on there. I'm going to play it again and just listen carefully. You can actually hear the breath noise, and you can hear him taking a breath and everything. It is very intimate. Calm down, ladies.
Here in my arms. They can only do harm.
And it's just honest. It's not tuned. It's just an honest voice. Now, this is interesting. Let's take that Alan part and put it together with Martin's soft part.
Here in my arms.
It gives a lovely chorus effect.
they can only do harm.
Right, and let's bring in Martin's high part here.
Here in my arms, they can only do harm.
And let's bring in Dave's part here.
All I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary. They can only do harm.
So it's got Dave, Alan and Martin's voice. What about Fletch? Why was Fletch not asked to sing on this? Hey, I've got something very interesting to tell you. Fletch did actually record a part for that, and I've actually got the original footage of that. Yep, you've heard it first on this channel. Roll the tape.
Here in my arms, they can only do harm. Was that good? Yeah, baby.
So, as you can see, Fletch did contribute a vocal to it. Why they decided not to use it on the record, I don't know. But we've actually got that original part here. So let's listen to how it would have sounded if Fletcher's part was included.
Wanted, all I ever needed is
Here in my arms,
words are very unnecessary.
they can only do harm.
Yeah, so personally, I don't know why they excluded Fletcher's part. I think it's very rude, but anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think. And this ends the segment for the YouTube viewers. Let's jump back to the keyboard and do the piano improvisation. Hope you enjoyed that. Sticking with tradition, as we always do on this channel, I'm going to play this now in piano form in what I call a piano improvisation. And remember, that is me kind of just improvising it on the fly. I'm not reading it, I'm just playing it emotionally using all the different elements of the song. So all the melodies and all the parts and the chords and everything, and just expressing them how I feel at the moment. Well, there you have it. Enjoy the Silence, a song that is very, very important to me. The first time I heard it, it ignited and inflamed something in me, and it made me go down the journey that I went down, and it's brought me to where I am now. So I have such a special place in my heart for this song, as I'm sure you do too. Right, my friends, it's up to you now. Please leave your comments in the description below. Please subscribe. Let me know anything you want to say about Enjoy the Silence. Any comments, and hey man, let's get this conversation going. If you're on Facebook and you want to elaborate and take the content that we talk about here further, then feel free to join the Vaughn George Facebook group. Links in the description below. As always, thank you so much for your support, lots of love, and I'll see you again on part 12. Adios.